So this is my submission for CS50's Introduction to Game Programming. This is assignment 8, the helicopter game in 3D in Unity. It's the gem update. So the first requirement is to add gems into the game. So when you collect a gem, you get 5 coins sort of worth of points, well, coins. And also fix a bug where on subsequent plays of the game the speed resets and it no longer sort of maintains the speed. So here's the idea of Unity, is the gem here I've sort of added as a prefab. I'm just going to demo the game so we can see it. So you can see the gems appear a lot less frequent. There's only one per column at any one time, because with the coins you can create multiple sort of instances of that per column. You can see 2, then 3 there. For the gems it's always 1 and they're always less frequent. And you can see when I collect a gem it's worth 5 coins. So I'm going pretty fast now. Let's see if I can speed it up a bit, because when you collect something there's a random chance you speed up. Let's crash into this building, restart the game, and you can see the speeds reset to what it was at the very start. So there are 2 requirements. Yeah, it was a pretty fun project actually, getting to grips with Unity and learning that. So now let's take a little look at the code there in order to get this gem update into the game. The very first thing to get all this set up is a little bit fiddly, because they recommend you download a beta version, and whether you download the latest beta version now, this was written in 2018 I think, so whether you download the beta version now or LTS release, which is a long-term support release, you're still going to have to sort of do some upgrades, and the projects, it's not going to load properly basically. So to set this up, I found installing Blender for a start. That's the very first step. Get that installed on your system, then you won't have any problems loading the modules into Unity. Once that's installed, download the latest version of Unity Hub through the Unity website. It's always bundled with the Hub now. Everything's done through Unity Hub. All your projects are created and controlled within Unity Hub. Download the latest long-term support release. I don't recommend downloading the beta version just because the instability of it. There's new features that they're not fully tested yet. But if you get the newest long-term support one, it's been rigorously tested, it's in long-term support, you're not going to have any problems. So latest long-term support at the time of recording now, September 2020, the long-term support version is 2019 4.9F1. But again, that's made available to you as an option in Unity Hub. So once that's downloaded and installed and everything, you just want to locate the helicopter assignment and load that into Unity Hub, and double click to open it. When you open it, it'll prompt you to upgrade the project, the asset database, all that stuff. Just say yes, 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 and do this. Once it's opened in Unity, you probably find everything is blank. The project isn't loading. All you get is an empty scene with a camera. So, and also an error about lighting as well. Lighting data asset, lighting data is incompatible with the current Unity version. So let's stop that a second. So to fix the lighting error, go to Window, then Rendering, then Lighting Settings. Down here, the only thing you need to do is click this button here, Generate Lighting. I have this to auto-generate. Once you've done that, restart Unity, that error should go away. So that's the lighting error. Also you might find is half the meshes and models aren't showing up. For example, on mine I had a green skyscraper, but the red and yellow ones were hidden, so when I was playing the game I was crashing into nothingness because these weren't loaded properly. Also the body of my helicopter was missing, so I was just using propeller blades to go through the game. For that, just right click anywhere in here and click re-import all. That should solve all those mismatches. It's really just a link that seems to be missing for whatever reason. So when you click any one of these prefabs here, on the right side here, this mesh, it will say can't be found or missing or something like that. You can either relocate it manually, or re-importing all should resolve all those problems. Then once that is done, you'll notice that nothing is still loaded in. So they recommend double clicking this main scene here, and that should load it all up. It didn't really work for me. This is a directory here. I double clicked it, nothing happened. So after all those changes I've just talked about, I literally found the main scene in my computer, my PC, double clicked it, and that loaded the scene into Unity, and everything was how it is supposed to be. So yeah, a little bit of a nightmare getting started, but once all that's done, you should be good to go. So let's look at the code, or at least what I did anyway. So the first thing is adding gems. Now what I did, I went to the prefabs folder, and I duplicated the coin here, because it's very similar to a gem. I'm not gonna remake everything from new when the behavior is very similar to a coin. So what I did, I right clicked the coin prefab, I did create, and I did variant, prefab variant here, and that will create a new prefab based on the other one. Call it gem right here. And then in the inspector for the gem, change the mesh to a diamond, and then change the coin texture to a heart texture. So here it will say coin texture because it's based off the coin here. You can just change this to a heart texture, very easy. And also for the gem, I used a diamond mesh here, and that sort of gives it that object. So the mesh is the shape, and the texture is the color. So there's two things you need to change in order to convert the coin into a gem. I'll cover the script a little in a second. The next thing is creating the gem spawner. So what I did, right click here and click create empty and call it gem spawner. This will create a brand new gem spawner into the project. Here you click add component and new script, and just call it gem spawner, and that will create this script right here. When you create new scripts, it puts them in the main asset folder here every time you create a script. So drag them into the scripts folder here to keep everything tidy. So now you have a gem spawner sort of UI element, and you now have a blank gem spawner script. Now the gem spawner script is very similar to the coin spawner script. So what I did, I opened the coin spawner script, copied all this information, and literally dumped it into gem spawner. And this will be blank by default because it's a new script. I changed all the instances of coins to gems, and just sort of looked at the code to tweak it slightly. So gems are supposed to be more rarely occurring, so instead of every instead of every 1 to 5 seconds like you do for a coin, I'm doing 5 to 10 seconds for a gem. I'm also only allowing one gem to appear per column, so you see coins can appear 1 to 3 times I think in one column, but gems only one. And using the frequency and frequency appearing in one time, this makes a gem sort of a rare occurrence. So they're the only two things you really need to change for the gem spawner. And then back in the inspector for the UI element, yes, okay. So once you've put this code in here and saved it, you'll notice we now have a new public object here called prefabs for the gem spawner. And back into Unity, we go to our gem spawner and expand prefabs. Now we put the size as 1, by default it's 0, so when we put the size to 1, this element 0 will appear here, and we literally want to change this to gem, and gem isn't in a scene, it's actually an asset. So just select gem, and this will set our gem as the prefab for the gem spawner script, and that's how it all links together. So when you run the project, the gem spawner will now know it has a script associated with it. It now knows it has one prefab associated, which is our gem, and that's the prefab we created with the heart red texture and the gem shape, which is the diamond mesh. So that's how it all ties together for that. So adding the trigger, so that's sort of when you collect the gem, we want the coins to increment by 5, so that's the trigger part of it here. So for that, let's see, click the gem prefab in the inspector. Okay, and inside here, I'm just remembering where I put the code for this. Here we go. So as we based it off the coin one, you'll see we have a coin script here. We want to remove the coin script from our copied coin here and create a gem script. So that's the case of adding component, new script, calling it gem. That will create a blank gem C# class, dumps it in assets, drag that into scripts to keep it tidy, and now we have a blank gem here. Again, open the coin class, copy all the contents, go back to gem, paste all the contents in here, change some of the things so it's associated with gems now. So it's usually just a case of changing the comments. I don't believe I really changed any of this code, in fact, apart from this line right here. So when you collect a gem, you want to define a new function called pickup gem, which is part of the heli controller class here. So this is the only line you really need to change once copying the code from the coin class here. You see the coin is pickup coin, so we now want pickup gem. So go to the heli controller right here. This dialog pops up because I think it was created on a Mac, which is sort of like a Unix Linux variant system, and they have different new line endings, so you get that sort of prompt every time on a Windows system. It's not a big deal. So I've created a function here called pickup gem. We want it to be worth 5 coins, so we've just edited this value here. This sort of sound, you can dump this in a new function if you want. It's really a small sort of test project, so I just copied it over. Because you don't really want repeating logic, but it's just a sort of test project. So yeah, we've just created a pickup gem function which gets called when we interact with a gem, and that is pretty much it for collecting and spawning gems. And because we copied the code from the coin and the coin spawner, the requirement for destroying the gem is already done for us. So reset the scrolling speed is the last requirement. The speed of everything lives in the skyscraper spawner class here. So let's open that. You can see here, as the gems and coins move down the screen, they're all based on the speed of the skyscraper spawner class right there. And you can see this is a coin, this is a gem, and that lives here. It mentions in the lecture that this is a static variable, so it's sort of like one instance for the class. So when the game over class is sort of called, normally we'd use something like get component to get the instance of the class and then modify the variable. But because this is a static class, it's a class level member object. So we literally just use the name of the class because it's not an instance variable, dot speed because it's static, and just set it back to 10, and the f just means it's a floating point value. And that is everything really. So that's it covers the spawning of gems, the collecting of gems worth 5 points, and also fixing the bug where the speeds reset to what it was before. I hope the information on getting started with Unity were useful. I spent about 30 minutes to 45 minutes trying to get this project to load, so hopefully I saved you some time with that. So thanks for watching, and good luck with your helicopter game too.